Welcome to Random Movie Reviews. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Alien vs. Predator. So the last review I did for this channel was Predator: Killer of Killers, a movie that I and apparently many other Predator fans enjoyed. That movie's gotten pretty good reception all across the board, and it just got me in the mood to watch more Predator movies. So after I watched that one, I watched Predator 2, and I really love Predator 2. It's not like an Aliens or a Terminator 2 in terms of the great sequels out there, but I do think it's an underrated movie. It's just a lot of fun. It's a bit campier than the original movie. It's a bit more over the top, certainly more violent, I think. Which adds to the enjoyment, but it's just it's one of those sequels where it kind of takes the same premise and it just elevates it with more action, more violence, kind of a more unique setting outside of the jungle. We're in an urban environment. Danny Glover's really awesome in the movie, and then of course we get a really great finale where we see in the spaceship the Predator's skulls they've collected all over the universe, and of course there's a very prominent alien xenomorph skull in there, which was kind of planted the seed for a possible crossover between Predators and Aliens. And of course this was also around the time where the Dark Horse comics were getting quite popular with the Alien vs. Predator comics, and then they made video games. There was a really popular arcade Alien vs. Predator video game. So the idea of Alien and Predators going up against each other is not an original one. It's one that's been around for quite some time, well before this movie ever came out. And although this has never officially been confirmed, I'm of the belief that due to the surprise success of Freddy vs. Jason, which is a movie that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on in this video, that's the reason why Alien vs. Predator eventually got rushed into production and spat out into audiences, is because Freddy vs. Jason was a surprise hit, and so they wanted to recreate that success with an Alien vs. Predator movie, which is something that's been, kind of flirted around with for quite some time at this point. They're like, you know what, let's do it. Let's get the guy who directed the Resident Evil movies and Event Horizon, and we're gonna make this movie. And this is the first time I'm watching this movie. I've seen bits and pieces over the years. It's a movie that doesn't have the best reception from either fans or critics, but there are a small section of fans that do champion this movie. That's like, you know what? It's a fun guilty pleasure movie. Sure, it's kind of dumb, but it's campy and it's enjoyable, right? So that's kind of the state of mind I had going into this movie. I went into this movie not expecting a masterpiece on par with either the first two Alien movies or the first Predator movie. I went into it with the mindset that this is not going to be a great movie from a character standpoint or a story standpoint, but it'll deliver the goods in terms of some good Predator and Xenomorph action, right? No, not really. At least that's my opinion. I won't beat around the bush here. Alien vs. Predator is a very boring movie. It's boring across the board. The characters are boring. The premise and the reasoning why Alien and Predators meet up in this movie is incredibly lazy, as well as boring. And worst of all, the selling point behind the movie, the action between the Alien and the Predators, that's boring too, because here's the biggest controversial aspect behind this movie. It's PG-13. And full disclosure, that's why I put off watching this movie for so long. I'm like, who the fuck wants to watch a PG-13 Alien vs. Predator movie? I mean, that is one of the dumbest decisions ever made by a major studio. Hey, let's take these two iconic movie monsters in these hard R movies, put them together, but let's make it PG-13, right? Because their stupid producer minds were like, oh, well, we want kids to see this, so we'll bring kids to watch the Alien vs. Predator movie, and we'll make it PG-13 so it's easier for them to watch. And it's just like, oh god, the movie really suffers because of that. Because that's essentially all this movie has to offer. This movie doesn't offer any good character stuff, which I'll talk a little bit about in specifics, but there's not much to mention. This movie doesn't offer any original or unique ideas. All it has to offer you is the idea of an alien fighting a predator. And in that department, the movie is incredibly lackluster, just as everything else is. So, no, this isn't like the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not like terrible in like, I don't know, a Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher movie type of way. It's not like that, but it's just really just bland. And that's what makes the movie so unfortunate to watch. Say what you will about Freddy versus Jason, but at least that movie fully delivers on its absurd concept, its ridiculous premise, and it does not hold back or water itself down in terms of its over-the-top violence, which Freddy vs. Jason is a movie that I actually just rewatched last year. I did it for my Spooktober marathon because I hadn't seen it in years. And I was surprised at how much fun I had with that movie. Yes, it's dumb. Yes, it has that really ugly early 2000s horror aesthetic, which is just one of the worst eras of horror movies is the early 2000s. I mean, it was rough. But we get numerous battles between Freddy and Jason, and the movie is gory as hell, and it's just absurdly fun from beginning to end. Alien vs. Predator doesn't come anywhere near Freddy vs. Jason, just in terms of pure entertainment value alone. And there are other guilty pleasure movies I have in both of these franchises that I think are more fun than Alien vs. Predator. But before I get into the specifics, let me just give a very, very brief, because the plot is so bare bones, a very brief overview of the plot. So I'm not even going to bother with like all of the characters in this movie because 90% of them are completely expendable. So the only characters I'll be talking about is the main female protagonist, Alexa Woods, aka Lex, who is a veteran guide and is well versed in exploring Arctic and Antarctic environments. And then the other noticeable human character is Charles Bishop Wayland, played by Lance Henriksen, a very subtle callback to his characters in the Alien franchise, who is obviously the billionaire head of the Wayland Corporation and is funding the expedition with a bunch of well-known experts and explorers to go to Antarctica because they believe they discovered a underground alien temple of unknown origin, and they want to go over there and explore it and see what possible goods it has to offer. We find out much later in the movie, pretty much during the beginning of the third act, that this temple was created by the Predators and the people who were worshipping the Predators during ancient times. And they created this temple to do human sacrifices via face huggers on the humans, creating xenomorphs so they can do their hunt. And they do this every 100 years. In fact, the movie opens up in 1904, precisely 100 years before our main story kicks in. And we see this old prospector-looking dude getting hunted down by a predator, and then a xenomorph comes out of nowhere. We then find out that during this expedition, there are teenager predators that are coming to this pyramid as part of kind of their ritual initiation process where they have to earn the right to their shoulder cannons. And our characters find these shoulder cannons in this elaborate little puzzle piece that this entire pyramid is made out of. This pyramid essentially is just a death trap to keep our characters locked in the situation where they can't escape, and either a xenomorph will get them and impregnate them, or a predator will get them, right? I'm sure that this premise alone causes numerous lore inconsistencies between both the Alien and Predator franchise. Whatever, I don't really care about that. What I care about is the fact that, okay, so the characters, even Lex, the main character, bland, boring, not really even a character, just kind of a placeholder for a character, has nothing to offer in that department. It's like, okay, so these characters are completely useless and disposable, then the movie's going to deliver, right? In terms of some gory kills. And for the record, I watched the unrated version of this movie, which I think is like 7 or 8 minutes longer than the original version, thinking that, oh, well, this is probably going to fill in the gaps of the original version in terms of the PG-13 watered down violence, right? So unrated is the way to go because they'll get more violence. If I did, I didn't really notice all the violence in this movie, which is, once again, that's the main selling point of this movie. I went into this movie knowing that the characters weren't going to be special, that the premise wasn't going to be really engaging or original. It was going to be very bare bones and just an excuse to kill off these characters in fun and interesting ways. The movie doesn't even deliver on that, which is like, dude, then what the fuck is the point of this movie? On top of that, the Predators look really dumb in this movie. They look like, I don't know, they're like too bulky. They look like giant action figures. They look like giant cosplayers. There's something about this movie that feels kind of cheap. And I'm not just in terms of like, you know, how lazy everything is, but just like the production design is like a little too sleek and glossy. and it just looks like a sci-fi, and it has the mentality as well of a sci-fi original movie. The only thing I can say is like the xenomorphs, when they're not in CGI, the xenomorphs look pretty good, and we get to see the mother alien again. The mother alien is like locked up because the predators, we assume, captured the mother alien on her home planet or whatever, brought him down to Earth, and is forcing the mother alien to plant eggs and all of that stuff on a conveyor belt, no less. Like, just so ridiculous. Then the main predator, which we find out is named Scar, meets up with Lex, and they kind of team up together in order to, you know, escape from all the xenomorphs coming after him, and the mother alien is now free and all this stuff. And so they work together briefly during the end of this movie. And full disclosure, by the time the movie was getting to the end, I was kind of like completely checking out. I was checking my phone because like the action was lame, the characters were lame, I didn't give a shit about what was happening on screen. I just didn't care. So I would kind of just briefly look at the screen. It's like, anything interesting happening? No? Okay. What's happening on the world of YouTube. In one of the funnier moments in the movie, they have like this sled ride, a magical sled ride out of the tunnel, which was pretty hilarious as it's exploding because Scar sets up the Predator explosion device. And then in classic Alien tradition, there's a surprise fourth act where the xenomorph shows up again. Incredibly underwhelming and lame, just like all the other action in this movie. You know, Lex then meets up with all the other predators on the spaceship, and they go away, and she has like this admiration for them that's completely unearned, by the way. And then the movie ends with one of the lamest teases I've ever seen in a movie, where a xenomorph pops out, I think of Scar or one of the other predators. Like I said, kind of wasn't really paying attention that much because this movie sucks. It was, it's the cutest little xenomorph puppet with the little predator fangs on the side. And then the movie ends, and I was like, well, that was lame. So yeah, that's Alien vs. Predator. I will not be watching Alien vs. Predator Requiem because I already know all the comments I'm going to get in this video. It's like, oh, if you think this movie's bad, well, wait till you see Alien vs. Predator Requiem because that movie is going to make this movie look like a fucking masterpiece. Well, good news. I'm not going to watch it. Like I said, as I was watching this movie, I was thinking about Freddy vs. Jason, and I was also thinking about Alien Resurrection. I know some people will be like, why are you thinking about Alien Resurrection? Well, Alien Resurrection is one of those movies where people hate that movie. It's not highly liked. It's one of the most hated Alien movies. But I watched that movie for the first time last year with zero expectations, and I had fun with Alien Resurrection. I had fun with how crazy and bizarre its premise was. I had fun with how over the top the action was in the movie. And I had fun with all the crazy xenomorph shit as well as the xenomorph human hybrid stuff. Like, that movie, say what you want about it in terms of how dumb and campy the plot is, at least that movie is entertaining with like its absurdity. And it fully like delivers on its crazy ideas, and it doesn't water itself down. And that's my problem with Alien vs. Predator. So anyway, that's my thought on Alien vs. Predator. Like I said, I'm probably not going to be watching Requiem because it sounds even more miserable than this movie. And look, this movie isn't the worst movie ever. I can acknowledge that, but it's just so bland. And the fact that I went in with low expectations to begin with, and the movie still didn't even meet those expectations, I mean, that says a lot, honestly. So that's my thought on Alien vs. Predator, but I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this movie? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Mention it in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.